All right, let's get right into it. There is this vote in California, and believe me, it was not just about California. We're talking about a political earthquake, really, with the power to completely reshape the U.S. Congress. This is all about Proposition 50.
And look, the stakes here, they really couldn't be any higher. What just went down in California? Well, it's not some small local issue. Nope, it's a direct, totally calculated play in this huge national power struggle. And it could literally decide who controls the House for, like, the next 10 years.
And you know what? It wasn't even a close call. I mean, look at that number. In a special election that, by the way, had a surprisingly high turnout, almost 2/3 of voters said yes. That's a landslide. But the real story here, the juicy part, is why. Why did they vote that way?
And this is where it gets really interesting. You got to remember, just a little over 10 years ago, Californians actually voted to create this independent commission. The whole point was to take politicians out of the map drawing game. So why on earth would they suddenly turn around and vote to give that power right back?
Okay, so this is Prop 50. This is the thing at the center of this whole debate. Officially, it's called the Election Rigging Response Act. What it does, basically, is it hits the pause button on that independent commission. It's a temporary change to the state constitution that lets the legislature, the politicians, draw the congressional maps for the next 3 elections.
So here's the key thing to understand. This wasn't happening in a bubble. California didn't just wake up one day and decide to do this. No way. This vote was a direct, very deliberate counterpunch to what was going on thousands of miles away.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly. It's like a game of political chess, right? You've got Texas, where at President Trump's urging, the GOP legislature redraws their maps to try and grab maybe 5 extra Republican seats. So what happens? California Democrats, led by Governor Newsom, fire back with Prop 50 to do the exact same thing, but for Democrats. It's a classic political arms race, and the weapons are district lines. So as you can imagine, this whole thing split people right down the middle. And it all boils down to this one huge question. Was this a necessary move to protect democracy? A shield against what was happening in other states? Or was it just a partisan power grab using the exact same tactics they were supposedly fighting against?
The people who supported it, like Governor Newsom, they framed this 100% as a defensive move. Listen to this quote. When he gave his victory speech, he wasn't just talking to people in California. He was sending a loud and clear message to Donald Trump, basically saying, we're fighting for democracy and we're going to win.
But then you had the other side, and leading that charge was Arnold Schwarzenegger, the former governor. And the irony here is, he's the one who pushed for that independent commission in the first place. For him and other critics, it was super simple. This just takes power away from the people and gives it right back to the politicians.
And the Yes campaign, they went all in on making this a national fight. They brought in the big guns, like former President Barack Obama. He basically told voters, look, Republicans are trying to rig the election, and a yes vote on this is how you stop them in their tracks. It totally raised the stakes.
But the argument against it was powerful too. And this quote from Republican Congressman Kevin Kiley really hits the nail on the head. He's saying, hey, I get it, but fighting fire with fire just burns everything down. The fear was that even if it feels justified, this kind of retaliation just gets you stuck in a destructive loop that never ends.
So yeah, the debate was fierce. You had really strong arguments on both sides. But you know what? At the end of the day, it's not about the politicians or the pundits. It's about the voters. So let's dig into the numbers. Let's look at the exit polls and see who actually decided this.
Wow. Okay, looking at the data, this is pretty stark. It's almost a perfect split along party lines. I mean, 95% of Democrats said yes. That's practically unanimous. And Republicans were just as strongly against it. So who was the tiebreaker? It was the independents. They just barely tipped the scales, but it was enough.
And it wasn't just about party either. Check this out. There's a huge generation gap. Almost 80% of young voters, folks under 30, were on board. But look how that number drops for voters 65 and up. It's still a majority. Yeah, but it's way lower. It really seems like different generations have totally different feelings about these kinds of political tactics.
Okay, but this slide right here, this might be the most important one of them all. This tells us the why. When they asked yes voters, hey, why'd you vote for this? Their answer was incredibly clear. It wasn't because they think politicians are better at drawing maps. Look, only 17% said that. A whopping 82% basically said, we did this to fight back against what Republicans are doing in other states. It was pure strategy.
So there you have it. The measure passes with a big margin, and we know exactly why people voted for it. So the big question now is, what happens next? What does this actually mean, now that it's the law of the land?
All right, here's the game plan. Step 1, those new legislature-drawn maps, which are, let's be honest, much more friendly to Democrats, they're in effect right now. Step 2, those are the maps we're going to be using for the next 3 big elections, 2026, 2028, and 2030. And Step 3, the independent commission isn't dead and buried. It's just on hold. It's set to come back and take over again after the 2030 census.
And this number right here is what this whole thing was about. This is the ultimate prize. The new maps are specifically designed to give Democrats a shot at flipping up to 5 House seats currently held by Republicans. Now, in a Congress that is so often decided by just a handful of votes, 5 seats isn't just a lot. It's a potential game changer. It's the difference between being in charge and having no power at all.
So what does this all mean? Well, what Prop 50 really shows us is that a political fight in one state is now seen as a fight for the whole country. And that leaves us with a pretty tough question, doesn't it? Is this our new reality? A never-ending arms race where states are drawing these crazy maps, not just to help themselves, but to get back at the other side. You have to wonder if this vote just opened the door to a very messy future for American politics.